Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockings, and I feel so underranked here.
We do have some guests. So, gentlemen, please introduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Gary Davis, and I play Captain Brousseau on Dreadnought Dominion.
I'm Randy Grin, and I play Stephen Denson on Dreadnought Dominion.
I'm kind of excited today, guys, because I'm a huge Dreadnought fan. Have been ever since I was a kid. And I mean the Franz Joseph Technical Manual Dreadnought. So the fact that you guys are doing a fan series based on you're stationed on a Dreadnought is pretty cool. We had you guys on a live a little while ago talking about your current Indiegogo campaign, and we wanted to have you back to talk about the Dreadnought specifically and the different models that you've used, or CG models that you've used for it over the course of your runs. So we're going to talk about that and some of the differences. So,
because I remember telling you, Stuart, before you were as much in the fan film world, being much like, Stuart, there's a show that uses a Dreadnought, and you're like, what? And it's like these are your guys, Stuart. Because it wasn't an accident, obviously, and they've done plenty of episodes and lots more ambition to come, and they've certainly fleshed out the feel of the Dreadnought flying through space, etc. And I'm sure Franz Joseph would be proud. But obviously, let's start with the beginning, though. I'm sure you woke up one day, you said, I'm going to make a fan film and have a Dreadnought. That's what happened. I know it is. I know that's right. Question 2, or was that a bit off? What's the real story?
Gary and I got involved with Frank Parker, who was going to do his own fan film. He pulled me in to take Gary's short story and turn it into a screenplay. Also, I went down to the studio and helped to build it. That's an overstatement. I had sanded a few things, painted a couple of things. Mm-hmm. And in one of those trips down to the studio, Frank says, how would you like to be a character in my show? And I'm like, well, yeah. I became Stephen Denson. And then I started working on turning Gary's short story into a script.
Well, you can't have much of a fan series without a ship to fly on. So tell us a little about the who was responsible for the first CG model that you guys were using?
Well, and do you know what Frank's rationale for a Dreadnought?
Frank wanted to do something different because, he was involved in Starship Farragut. And, up to that point, most of the fan films out there were about a Constitution class. And they were all Starship such and such, Starship such and such. So he wanted to break the mold a little bit. And so he went to the Franz Joseph Technical Manual and he pulled out the Dreadnought. And what was really interesting is he contacted Franz Joseph Schubert, I think that's his actual name, is his family, and asked if he could use that in the fan film. And his daughter gave permission, which is really cool. She follows us on Facebook and has even commented on a few of our videos. So it's great to have the author's daughter out there looking at what we do. The interiors and the sets, they're all interchangeable. So it's the same for a Constitution as it is for a Dreadnought.
And do you know his rationale for going for the more beefy Dreadnought rather than a Saladin or a Miranda variant or something a bit more classical? Because the Dreadnought, symbolizes potentially the strongest ship of the fleet, which changes all the mission profiles drastically. You aren't going to do Connie missions, you aren't going to do Saladin missions, you're going to do very specific things. Do you know if he had a rationale for that, or just he thought the design was the coolest?
We were all flying by the seat of our pants when we were doing this. I don't think there really was a master plan. It was just to do something different, do something fun, and go from there. So, our first 2 episodes were helmed by Frank, and then he wanted to do something different. So he quit the show after the first 2 episodes, and then Randy and I were kind of left floundering in what to do. The purpose of our Dreadnought is problem solving and exploration, and really showing the Dreadnought is a battleship. But, we're out there showing the flag and just walking around with the big stick saying, you better not mess with the Federation because, look what we got here.
Well, it's safe to say that the Federation in general, when there's nothing going on as far as hostilities, all the ships are out there kind of doing the standard, seek out new life form and exploring. That's what Starfleet is. So, if you have downtime, no ship should really have downtime. You go do things. So I like that.
We've had an episode where, the Dominion went out and found the bad guys that were responsible for the attack and brought them to justice. And I loved the CGI that Sam did of us grabbing that Romulan ship and saying, "Wait a minute!" It's like grabbing a bad kid by the collar and saying, "You're not going anywhere."
Yeah,
and
that was great.
And then in the present episode that we're doing, we come face to face with a D7 Romulan, and we talk her down. We don't have to fire a shot. We're just here. And the Dreadnought just has that imposing presence that just says, what was the line that you put in there? You better not start a fight you can't finish.
You need a ship to fly around in. You need a ship for beauty shots. So who did the first CG model that you guys used?
Yeah, it was a Ken Thompson. And Ken Thompson, I just believe, was a friend to Frank's. And he made us a beautiful opening sequence with, it was very Voyager-esque with, the Dominion shaded differently going against a blue star, and just, and the classic whooshing through the screens. His version of the Dominion, the Dreadnought, was just total classic from the technical manual, which I think he based it off of his Connie, his heavy cruiser model, which in the opening pilot we have a Constitution, the Farragut, because we owed everything to the Starship Farragut, and then Ken Thompson's Saladin was also in there from his series, so it was great. That shuttle shot going past the Farragut and the Saladin, and then coming up to the Dreadnought Dominion. So almost all of the ships from the Franz Joseph Tactical Manual. The only thing missing was the tug.
Is that this original version of the Dreadnought definitely has a more TOS look, but actually I think it's harkening more back to the cage, because you've still got those cage black elements next to the blinkies. So I don't know if that was intentional to imply it was one of the older iterations, which has then proved very good for us, because now that's still the canon version 1, and if it's a cage version, we've just improved it since. So I don't know if that was an intentional vibe to kind of give it a cage feel.
I've worked on that model, and it had where you put the little prongs on the warp cell. So whenever I was playing with that model, I would have to take that little dot out.
Yeah,
sometimes didn't even notice that when I rendered it for a couple of our early episodes.
But one thing I want to point out is the first and second model seem to have a bridge module on the top of the ship. And anyone that knows the Dreadnought blueprints, it's actually smack dab in the center of the saucer, which the final version looks correct, because it's got like the sensor dome on top, which is a really nice touch. Is that something you guys knew about or had addressed at all in any of your episodes? That the bridge is not in the same position?
We've more or less just gone with the bridge is on the top of the ship, and the blueprints from everything I've seen show it's in the middle of the saucer, which makes more sense, because if you got a bridge totally surrounded by the bulk of the ship, then you're not susceptible to attack. But our models, we've had it at the top. Matter of fact, the brand new model, Sam even rendered the bridge. You could actually see the bridge. You could see the view screen, and I'm dying for him to put little people walking around.
Yeah, it feels for me, it feels very much like it's one of the Starfleet Battles models, or the miniatures, just with the markings on it, even like being older style. Like the Dreadnoughts were something that were built same time as the Connies, but they didn't build as many of them, so they're more of the older fleet still, and they didn't really upgrade them because they were pumping out the new Connies. So I kind of like that in a way.
Our designer Joey Bonis, he just put some more features on there, like the tail fins of the nacelles in the back. There were blue rings, and he put blue rings around our sensor, our sensor pot. I mean, the sensor dish at the beginning, and he even put shuttle bays on underneath the saucer section, which I think is a throwback to the Saladin. The Saladin has that because they don't have an actual shuttle bay. So he just put all kinds of different variations on that. We wanted an upgraded feel, because we wanted to have a noticeable transition from this to this, and this was about us going back to space dock. We did several episodes where we're getting fixed in space dock, and we even made a joke that we were doing fan films for several years and we still hadn't been out in space. So there was a reason for that. There was we were getting massive upgrades, and then we had an episode, technical difficulties, which we even said it. We've been waiting years to get out there for a mission, and we have issues. Engineer, what was the problem? And we wanted to poke fun at ourselves, because that's one thing that Dreadnought Dominion does is we just embrace everything and just.
And one thing to briefly point out, that when I was handed the model, I was very pleased it was a lightweight model, which makes my life a ton easier. But I went in and we didn't have budget to make a new model, so I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and improve this one. So I did retexture it a bit, made the blinkies more, just sort of made everything a bit more cohesive. And I thought those small details, would help if possible. And then eventually got you around to the full version. But Stuart, what do you think of the second version then? Because it is actually quite distinctly different. And that version, I think Joey did intend for the bridge to be in the middle, because
I think the second version is fine. I'm not big on the placement of the registry number where it is. I kind of like the latest version, and the first one even had it on the curve, because you got to remember the curve of the like if you look at the profile of the Dreadnought compared to the Connie, there's actually a much different shape for the saucer. So that curve doesn't really work on the second one for me. It feels more Connie-ish than anything. But other than that, I mean, you got the added grid lines and stuff, which kind of pop a bit more, which, the original Connie really didn't have grid lines. It did, very faint little pencil ones, but this one seems a little bit too deep and too channeled. One thing I do like about it, though, is the warp chiller grills, the different colors in there. I think that's really neat, as opposed to just a standard blue.
And since the Dominion has gone through so many upgrades, I think that they've chosen us to be the one that gets all these niceties, and then they'll phase it on to other ones. And and we want to have a different Dreadnought coming up on a new episode. So I want to establish there's more than just one Dreadnought out there.
Do you? Oh, that seems to me cool.
There'd be a few anyway. There wouldn't be as many as the Connies, but there'd be a few.
There'd be 3 or 4, I would think.
Yep.
It's just like our modern Navy battleships. We had those assigned to strike carrier strike groups, and now the carriers. There's not as many carriers as are cruisers and things of that nature. So that's what I equate the Dreadnoughts to.
And you can imagine, because they are so the lean, big muscle of the fleet, they might all have different mission profiles in the specialisms, and so one might be a shuttle fly-through version, who knows, one might have double that torpedo launchers, who's to say. Maybe you've got the balanced version and you just make one that is slightly more X, Y, or Z.
Plus the Dreadnought has much more crew. The Dreadnought has 500 officers and crew. So, that's a great strain on Starfleet manning, to have that many people out there on a ship where, a Connie only has 335.
That's one of the things I did when I designed the Foley class. There was the Foley class, which was the prototype. Then there was 3 other ones. That's all they made. So there's only like 4 out there total.
What impetus was there to make the third version, the one that I was directly involved in, and what was your sort of? Because that was a real fresh slate. What was the thought process behind that then?
We just like phases, and when Sam was using the new old model, you said that you wanted something a little bit more freedom, and we said go for it. And just like we trust Sam with design elements, so there was nothing that Sam threw on here that we didn't like. And the first thing I saw was the registry number. The registry number uses the correct font, the correct size. I'm a devil for the detail, and when I saw that, I was like, yes. Now I did ask Sam to put USS Dominion on the upper nacelle, which we had on the original one, but not on the second iteration. So it was nice to see that, and then just all the little niceties of this thing. There's just weapons, photon torpedo tubes everywhere. So now I'm looking at the Dreadnought coming right at me, and that's what I'm envisioning keeps us from having to use those photon torpedoes, is just the fact that the enemy sees those right in their face. So the Dominion the Dreadnought just projects strength.
I love it. There are lots of people who do nice models of varying types and sorts, and but there's nobody who lights them like you do. Maybe Richter or somebody, but other than that, there's nobody that lights models and animates models the way you do. We love your work. We've seen it, and we wanted us some of that. We try to get a little bit better with every episode. And we work on acting, we work on camera work, we work on editing, and we try to do something just push the envelope just a little bit further with every episode, if possible. And that was the next logical place to go, was into the CGI and try to go to the next level on that. And fortunately, there's you.
Many, yeah. And when we did We Are Many, that was like, oh, we can show this thing off. We can get close. We can get around it. Because we had talked previously, there were sort of limits with the other model that we kind of felt vaguely, but for that one, I don't know. Because there's even rooms in the windows, so you can literally get to the saucer level.
I love it. I love the addition of the rear photon torpedo launcher in the neck. Like, that's just beefing it up and making it look more Dreadnought-esque. I like that. You did remove the eyebrows, though. On the bottom of the saucer, which are kind of a Starfleet staple, but the one thing I really like is the rim of the saucer having bigger windows and not lined up the same as the Constitution class. I like that. It gives a unique feel, and it's something that I think for a Dreadnought might be something that they would do, because it's a different design internally completely. There's subtle little changes that if you look at it long enough, you'll see them. But
yeah, same but different. I mean, it's like what we say with Discovery and Picard. You shouldn't be reinventing the wheel if the wheel's there for a reason. So it's kind of just taking it, iterating, and making sure the checklist is there. Make sure it has the right RCS thrusters and the right X, Y, and Z. One of the few things that although I give all credit to Nick the modeler for the neck design by having that 2-tier, and then I made it much darker. His was all the same colour. I was like, oh, no, I'm going to make that dark, and just kind of like, ooh, gives that real pop. Don't know why. And I know people in Trekyards, I've said for a long time, for multi-nacelle designs, and especially the Dreadnoughts, which way does the top nacelle spin, the Bassard? I'm like, that's not important to me, really. But more important was removing the inner grille to the top nacelle, because that nacelle doesn't have line of sight, which means it's not the same function nacelle as the other two. So if you look at it, it's subtly different, because it's not there to generate the warp field. It's there to do probably a sustainer or a boost. So it doesn't need to have. It shouldn't be a clone of the other two.
One thing I have to say about that, though, I really like the original design from Franz Joseph, where the chiller grills are on the top of that nacelle, because it's still functionally something that probably the nacelle needs for the warp coils. I kind of like that it's a unique design for the nacelle there. And I didn't notice that on the second model there was no Dominion on the pennant there. That definitely needs to be there for a Dreadnought, in my opinion. Like, that's loud and proud. This is the ship,
One thing I was keen to do was to bring all the texturing into how it should feel like a Connie. Like you said, all the lettering, all was about the right size. The pennant, the grill lines are there just enough, but they don't stand out. It makes the whole ship feel bigger because the scale. Weirdly, the middle one did feel smaller because those lines can give you a sense of plate line, and then also the Aztecing, etc. Small things, and also shrinking the bridge window or the bridge dome for some reason. Because, I mean, that's the thing, though. You guys were using the Connie bridge, so that is the scale of the bridge. There isn't any back and forth there. If it's at the top, it is a certain scale. So it's kind of those I like the limitations where, this is the size of a torpedo, so therefore the tube has to be this size. Well, that's how big it is. There isn't really a negotiation there. But that's good, though, because it all grounds it. And also adding more things at the bottom, the warp core ejection. And in fact, we had another shuttle bay to the bottom, which is actually, because the gradient to the hull, it's actually got an under airlock which opens and then reveals a bay that then shuttles can then, there's like a ledge and you can then go down from. So there's multiple shuttle bays in this thing. But speaking of in motion, Stuart, now is the time of the show to turn the tables. There's a fourth Dreadnought today, and it's for the guys that do the Dreadnought. Stuart, talk about your Dreadnought briefly, and then what do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've always liked Dreadnoughts, and I wanted, before Trekyards existed, I want to do something that
was a before time, guys.
Yeah,
I don't remember either,
was.
but there was.
Back in the before time. So I wanted to name it the Foley class, regardless of what it was, just so that the Foley class, something Foley was out there. I wanted to design a 3-nacelled ship because I love the 3-nacelled look, but I didn't want to have the third nacelle on the saucer, because then people just say, oh, you just ripped off the Federation class design and changed it a bit. So I want to do something unique. So I threw it on the back of the secondary hull because I love the profile that thing has. It just looks aggressive and fast. And it does have saucer separation capabilities where that nacelle actually slides up and locks into the primary hull, which is a little overcomplicated, but it's the only way I could get around that, because I really wanted it to be kind of like a vector, like multi-vector assault mode, like two ships that could perform together if needed.
Sleek and deadly, and the saucer separation is really intimidating. That, you know, she can break into two ships and instantly an enemy is outnumbered. Since it has shuttle bays fore and aft, is it a pass-through?
It is, yeah.
Ah,
I've got like full internal, you know, deck plans and stuff that shows the split, how the shuttle bay splits, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
portion of my fan experience where I loved warp fighters, and I was designing ships that warp fighters and squadrons could, you know, that I could see my warp fighters on that ship. You know, that's really cool. Yes, I love it.
It's loaded for bear as well. Like if you look, there's four forward-facing photon torpedo tubes on the secondary hull beside the shuttle bays, and four like yours, submarine style, with a little secondary deflector for when it does separate. There's also two rear-facing ones at the back, but yeah, this is the epitome of what a Dreadnought, a battle cruiser, should be.
Yeah, you guys think the Dominion's powerful? No, the Dominion is the little brother of this. Boy, it's like the littlest brother. It's like, yeah, little brother, you go do your missions, we'll go kill. Cool. It
would actually be a great episode where like we're running the Foley class through its paces to test it out on one of its trial runs, and it breaks down and you guys have to come save us. That'd be hilarious.
And it's definitely very, very different, which I like. And obviously I had seen some of this when I did my one, but we wanted to stay more faithful to Franz Joseph, because I'm always careful with the brief of not going too far. But Stu obviously just went, and this is like several iterations in, so you refined it as you went. Although I'm sure when we do the high-res version, you know, you'll also be able to smooth out some of those more harsh non-curves, I should say, make it feel a bit more high poly and smoother.
And I also have the Mark III, which has the third nacelle attached to the saucer because they learned their lesson. This was too complicated. So the Mark III, which is the Polybius class, is a thing as well. But it just looks like a really beefed up Federation class.
But yes, guys, as you guys know, they're currently on Indiegogo right now, trying to raise money for multiple new episodes with the Dreadnought and other cool ships. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? I certainly don't, but I'll be given a script and told that I have to do it. But definitely worth it, guys. And the more they do get, the more they can make in the future. And, you know, I'm sure Stuart is very keen, when he put in money, so he's very keen to see the Dreadnought fly more. And if he can talk to them off screen, maybe he'll get in it. Who knows? That's not up to me, it's up to them.
I'm humbled and very appreciative for every dollar that's put into that. I set a goal of $5,000 because I was hoping that we could make three episodes with that money, and we're almost to goal. I think we have like $775 until we get that $5,000. I'm hoping that we can do a little stretch goal to pay those Indiegogo fees, and we have a solid amount of money that we can contribute to making Dreadnought Dominion. And as my partner put in the pitch video, every dollar that we raise goes into what you see on the screen. It's the costumes, it's the CGI, it's paying for the venue, and paying for food to feed that hungry army that comes down and gives their time to shoot these episodes. So we really appreciate everybody who's donated to our campaign, and we want to make goals. So please help. At 5, 10, or 25, it'll help.
Excellent. So guys, if you're able to, go check out their Indiegogo campaign, and also make sure you hit like on this video, show your support for these guys, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and by all means, put a comment down below what you think about Dreadnought Dominion, if you've seen any, if you're going to see any, and what you thought of the Dreadnoughts that we've shown you today. So until next time, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins.
Gary Davis from Dreadnought Dominion.
Randy Wren from Dreadnought Dominion.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.